So, welcome. Thank you for joining me this morning. One of the principal things that Bodhidharma taught when he first brought Buddhism to China was not to rely on words, scriptures, ideologies. And why is that? Further that thought, he said, not to rely on it, but to rely on the direct experience of your original nature. Original nature is non-dual. It's non-duality. It's only one. It's one mind. So here I am using words trying to describe something that can't be described words. So forgive me. Now, the techniques that are used in these various traditions to get to this understanding that I'm trying to point at of non-duality. One of these techniques is Koan practice. From my point of view, Koan practice is not any different than when you are interacting in your life with someone or listening to someone's talk and you take objection. Anything you object to is a projection. Now, this is a very difficult thing to understand because, of course, we want to be right. All violence happens here. This is violence towards self and towards other, taking objection. How else can you deal with it when let's say someone says something to you that is insulting? Do you defend yourself? You take it personally? You lash out on the outside? No. So in Koan practice, this is all theater. This is all part of exploring how it is you understand what is happening right now. So when you take objection, say, what do you mean? Right in that moment, you should recognize that's your projection. But that's not easy to do because we're so hold on so tightly to our views of how things are. And we're so conditioned and so trained. Non-duality is beyond all that. All the conditioning, all the lifelong learning about how things actually are, and all the words and technology and everything that you've put together, it's fine. It's just not the reality. It's just the koan practice to get to understand your true nature, who you really are, and what this really is. I don't know how to go about this, really, because it comes down to each of us has to discover for ourselves what is real, what is true. And I can only say that if you can recognize that there is actually nothing to take offense to, there is nothing to take offense to. This is nonviolence. This is non-duality. This is one mind. As long as we're taking offense, we're stuck in duality. It's I, me, and mine as opposed to theirs and them. Now, the experience of non-duality is not a solution or an answer to duality, because duality doesn't actually exist. This, again, is a manufactured experience. This is our dream. This is our creation. Duality. And it's look at our dreams. Aren't they wonderful? I mean, they're so creative, whether they're demons or gods. Aren't they wonderful? It's our playground. It's our schoolyard. It's it's just a projection of our minds. When we say that originally our mind is clear like space, yet it contains everything. Nothing is amiss. So I'm only talking about this now, today, because I've had this experience most recently, and I know we have it all the time, where we come up against it, where someone may say something or act in a way that we may find offensive. And what an opportunity that is to see it for what it is. As long as you don't grab on, cling to it as some sort of something defend against or defend for. So each of us are responsible for our own projections. Now, if I don't engage violently, since I'm using that word, with someone, it doesn't mean not to engage. I'm engaging with you right now. You may object to what I'm saying. That's what's happening. But I think of it as Koan practice, you see. It's a purposeful way of interacting for us to understand ourselves and understand our understanding. What do we really get? Do we think we know or do we know? What's the difference between thinking you know and knowing? What's the difference? In other words, when I say knowing, I'm talking about wisdom. What's the difference between wisdom and ordinary sort of dualistic thinking, conceptualizing, putting things in categories, labeling, clinging to a particular view, all of that? How is that different from wisdom? Wisdom comes from a non-duality, from a non-dual place. Wisdom doesn't come from this and that, up and down, topsy-turvy. And wisdom is the same as compassion. To be a compassionate being means not to cling to right and wrong. You can't be a totally open, compassionate being when you think you're right. You're holding on to something. Are you really being... So let's suppose someone insults me and says, "That's ridiculous. You're an idiot." Okay. If I take offense and I try to explain how I'm not an idiot, and actually you misunderstand me, and blah, 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 and this can go back and forth and on and on and on and on. Or I can see my part in it I can see their part in it, in this play, this drama, this koan practice, and put it down. When you kind of take the air out of it, then compassion can be there for us to be able to see each other for what we are. In other words, yes, we may be in error. We may be thinking topsy-turvy, each in our own way. But from the point of view of compassion, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't uh, become an issue. It becomes an awareness, an awakening, a way to see that there's something beyond this. So it's always about getting beyond, not indulging in and clinging to and making it tight. It's the open hand, or the open heart, however you want to frame it. It's letting go so that you can see how it actually is. I'm not suggesting we don't engage. I'm not suggesting that we don't have dialogue or comments or question each other. That's appropriate. It's what we're holding on to. It's that clinging nature. It's that wanting to be right. Or if not wanting to be right, it's wanting not to be wrong. You know, I mean, our conditioning, right? How we think about ourselves. Sometimes we take it personally because we don't have a very strong sense of our own right to have our view. The only thing I can say about all this that I'm trying to talk about right now really is try it out for yourself. When you're caught up in that moment where it grabs you, wants to wants you to engage in a way that you know is causing some sort of pain or grief, just stop. Stop for a minute, for a second, for a brief moment. And what's there? My whole purpose here really is just to be a better human being and live a more authentic life. I'm not trying to project a particular theory, a particular ideology, or Zen, or any sort of thing that you label. Yes, there are so many different ways to approach what this is, and none of them are wrong, yet they're all wrong. I used to get upset at being misunderstood. Now I see it as a teaching. It's, I don't know how much of a difference that is, but it feels different to me to be looking at my experience as a teaching as opposed to objecting to it or having a prove myself or having to correct someone. I find it more natural to stand up for myself in any given situation if I'm not trying to prove anything. If you say to me, oh, let's suppose okay, I'll give you an example. I'm on my way over here this morning. I'm already running late. I have an agenda. I have to get here on time. Charlene very generously offers to give me a massage on my shoulders, knowing that I'm having this painful thing going on. I said, well, thank you very much, but not now. Later. Now, that seems really simple and like a very straightforward thing to say. But there was a time in my life where I would have argued with myself, now, how do I handle this? What would be the right thing to say? Or because I didn't feel connected to my own need in the moment and question my need in the moment, I would find a reactionary way to be. No, can't you see I don't have time right now? What's the matter with you? You see the difference? That reactionary, violent way of being comes from an insecure place, a place of not really being centered and grounded, but, you know, where am I? Am I allowed to be here? So that's a story that I have been was telling myself. That's just the story. And every time we react to something, it's a story. So Koan practice doesn't mean you have to go necessarily to a teacher and practice, although there's some advantages there. The teacher has no judgment, has no desire to make you right or wrong, only to help you to see yourself. So when you can have some help like that, wonderful. It's really difficult to do it on your own because we tend to hold on to our views very strongly. And without getting a good reflection from someone about it's, we struggle more. So having someone that reflects clearly is a wonderful gift, and you're very fortunate if you have someone like that in your life that can reflect to you without judgment, just exactly what's happening. So there are some advantages to having that kind of person in your life. And count your blessings if you do. Does any of that make sense to you? Any comments? Good. Well, thank you all for sitting with me this morning. Thank you. I hope you all have a wonderful day.